Hi everyone, I'm Allie with PotomacBeads. Join me with a little bit of wire and make this fun set of earrings. If you need any materials, you can shop from us at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. There are links below me to get those materials and join me in making these earrings. So to get started, you're going to need some wire and some pliers. You have 2 pieces of 20 gauge wire, and I have about 6 inches of each. You're not going to use all of that, but it's better to have more than not enough. And then per earring, and this is per earring I should mention, you're going to have 4 pieces of 4 inches of the 24 gauge wire. I have my needle nose pliers, my round nose pliers, and my wire cutters handy to help in the project. After going through and cutting all of your pieces of wire, and again, per earring, I have 2 6-inch pieces of 20 gauge, and I have 4 pieces of the 24 gauge wire in those 4 inches. We're gonna begin with coiling and doing our base of our coil before we go in and create the coils on either side. The first thing we're gonna do is take one of our pieces of our 20 gauge wire in our hand, and we are going to intersect it with a piece of our 24 gauge wire. We're holding the wire so that the 24 gauge is in front of the 20 gauge, and I'm pinching with my left hand. I'm holding it towards the end of that 6-inch piece of cording, and I'm gonna start to coil. I'm almost coiling towards my left hand, making sure that my coils are nice and tight against one another, as well as nice and tight against the 20 gauge wire. I prefer to coil towards me, and going big here, you can see a little bit better. I'm going to coil away from me and then pull the wire towards me from the bottom, away over top, towards me towards the bottom. Each of those 4 pieces that we're going to end up doing, we want to have 26 coils. So you need to count when coiling how many you have. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Reposition my hands if I need to, holding the coil. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So I have my 26 coiled sections there. And you can see you'll have a little bit extra on each end, but it's better to have a little bit extra and have something to hold on to than not enough. From here, take your wire cutters, and I'm going to cut that wire so it's nice and flush against the project. Coming back here to the starter side, I'm gonna uncoil just that starter wire because that first little coil did not count in my coil count. I just want to cut that down with the flat nose, the flat side closest to the project. I'm gonna cut off that extra wire. Now I want this, you can see that it actually can slide off the end of the wire. I'm gonna move it further down the piece here. And with my pliers, I'm not going to pinch tightly, but I don't want to poke myself, so I'm just going to kind of tuck those ends in a little bit. Once you have those ends tucked in, again, you don't want to do them too tight because you want that coil to be able to move around the edge. From here, sit down that first piece of wire, and you're going to pick up your second piece of your 20 gauge wire. Grab your round nose pliers, and we're going to make a small loop with our wire. I'm going to hold the round nose pliers so I can see the wire, but I can't feel the wire coming out of the top of the round nose pliers. Go ahead and round out your wire, kind of curling the round nose pliers in your hand. That's going to make an eye pin. From here, this eye pin that is rounded is going to go onto that other piece of 20 gauge wire. That's going to sit at the middle below where the bead is to hold and go through the beads. Just kind of ignore that for right now and then pick up another piece of your 24 gauge wire. Go again to the end of the 20 piece, and this time we're going to start coiling on the opposite side of that piece of wire that's intersecting. Go ahead and grab the wire, giving yourself about 1/4 of an inch leeway there at the start, something to hold on to, and coil your 26 coils. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you have a problem where your coils get separated a little bit, you can pinch them together with your fingers, hold on to them. If you also have the instance where your wire starts wrapping and coiling above one of the previous coils, you can uncoil it and start to recoil again. Okay, now that I have my 26 coils, I'm gonna go in and cut down this extra wire. Like I said, you end up with about an extra 2/3 of an inch. For me, it's better to waste a little bit than try to hold at the very, very ends and poke myself. I'm gonna remove those scraps from my work area so they're not in the way. Grabbing my needle nose pliers then, I'm going to kind of pinch down on those edges so my little edges of my wire are not sticking up. If I have any gaps in my wire too, I'll kind of push it together. Turning here, making sure that I have that flat end down. Going back to the starter side, I'm just gonna kind of flatten out that wire and get it all set. All right, now that I have those two pieces, I'm gonna slide them to the middle of my 20 gauge wire. I'm going to kind of straighten out the wire if you need to. You can twist it in your hand as you see me doing if you need to move it along the piece. You want those going straight right at the middle and intersecting with that centered wire. From here, we're gonna put on our first 8mm bead. If you wanna do a bead that's smaller than an 8mm, you're gonna need less than 26 coils. If you're using a different gauge wire, you may need more or less coils as well. 26 is the coil count for doing an 8mm bead with 20 and 24 gauge wire. Slide that 8mm bead on and let it drop as close to that coiled wire as possible. I'm also gonna grab with my round nose pliers and just kind of pull a little bit on that coil that I made. And that way I want that nice and tight to the bottom. We're gonna bring the coils to the side of the bead. The first or right side is going to go in front of the bead. The wire on the left side is going to go to the back of the bead. So I'm gonna go up. We're gonna go to the front of the bead. The second piece of wire here is gonna go along the back to the back of the bead. I'm gonna do a half turn around the piece so the wire that's on the right-hand side is gonna come back to the right. The wire that's on the left-hand side is gonna come back to the left. Now, I don't want those to sit high up on my piece of wire. I want them to be as close as possible to the bottom. Because basically what we're gonna do now, kind of push that all down, we're gonna do another set of our coils. So we are going to put another one of our turquoise beads onto our wire. And I'm just doing this just to show. I'm not actually gonna keep it on right now because I don't need it there. And kind of push down against that wire. Now we have that nice coiled around the beads. I'm gonna take my other two pieces of my 24 gauge wire and coil them around the wire that's to the right and to the left of the piece. We're gonna repeat and bring the wire up to the top of the bead. And you could keep going if you want to, having longer pieces of wire, but I'm gonna do each one on the right and the left, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're gonna wrap along the top again. Now that I've gotten my coils done on both the right and the left side, I am going to put on that 8mm bead again and kind of push it down, holding and pulling up on that center wire. Push it down nice and tight against the other beads. Push the coils that you have also nice and tight against the previous coiled section. Now the wire that's towards the front and coming out the front is going to go to the back of the second bead. The wire that's coming out the back is going to go to the front. So this one here that's coming out the back on the right-hand side, I'm gonna bring to the front and again, twist around just kind of one half turn. Pushing that down then, making sure that it kind of sits correctly. I'm gonna go to the other side here. This one that's coming out the front is going to go to the back. Half little turn, and then again, kind of grab with my pliers, give a little pull and push those beads down. You can play around with the wire a little bit if you need to, kind of moving those coils down and making sure that it looks like it's spherically around the bead. And then what I'm gonna do is cut this wire. So I'm cutting the 20 gauge wire, and I'm cutting just enough with that needle nose, or that flat side of the cutters, again, towards the project, that V side towards the back, so I get a nice flush cut. I'm cutting it down pretty close. I just wanna kind of tuck the wire in towards the back and the front so I don't really see it. It's also gonna stabilize those coils. And I'm gonna cut this one even shorter here going in, bringing it out a little bit. Trim that guy down shorter because I really just want it to tuck right around my bead. From here then, the last thing I have to do is put a bead on top, which is always optional if you want to do more beads. Like I said, you can also do this longer. You can see I have so much extra room on the top of that other 6-inch piece of wire that I'm just going to take a check glass rondelle that I liked, that brighter blue, to bring out kind of that turquoise color, slide that along the top, and then pull that wire so I get the coils down nice and tight against the bead. From here, you're going to take your needle nose pliers, hold above the bead, and turn the wire right after that rondelle. Go back in with your round nose pliers, make that loop come across the top, flip to the back. If you need any more help with doing some of these coiled eye pins, you can actually check out the other YouTube videos as well. Hold that eye pin and then coil around once and twice around the top, getting that nice coiled look on top of the bead. If you want to, you can even take that wire around the bead and kind of coil along the bead top as well. And then go in with your needle nose pliers and just kind of pinch down on that end. The last thing I'm going to do is put these onto my ear wires, and I have stainless steel ear wires here. I'm just going to show you how to nicely open ear wires if you do have fish hooks like this. I'm going to take the fish hooks here, and right where the opening is along the top of the fish hook, I'm just going to turn that wire to the side. That's going to open up the loop without pulling the loop back away from itself. The 20 gauge wire is a little bit thick, so you're going to slide that in and then close up the ear wire. Now obviously with the ear wire, you want to make sure that it's sitting correct and that you have it facing the correct way. So I'm going to go into this particular one and just twist that eye pin around a tiny bit, so that way it is facing forward, so it's going to lay nicely on my ear. Same thing here, I already see that eye pin is laying correctly, so I don't need to twist it around. I'm going to open up my ear wire, sliding it to the side, adding on my coiled earring, and closing it up. Very simple wire technique to learn, very elegant and nice look to it. And you can really expand on it, doing it into a pendant, doing it into a necklace, and expanding, actually linking them together and kind of building on. So the challenge is, if you want to, you can expand, do links, and do an extra loop there, kind of catching on to that bead as well and having fun creating a more detailed project. Thanks so much for watching these coiled wire earrings. Remember, if you need any of the materials, you can check out the links below and shop from us online at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. Also remember, you can do this with a variety of different beads, different projects, and different gauges and sizes too. Hopefully this gets your imagination moving and gets you set on trying out some wire. Keep in mind too, you can always subscribe to this YouTube channel by hitting the little bell below me, give it a little thumbs up, or comment and let me know what your go-to wires and beads are when you come to wire working. As always, thanks so much for watching, and enjoy making your own coiled wire earrings.